Hey, Daddy, I want a golden goose.
Here we go again.
All right, sweetheart, all right. Daddy will get you a golden goose as soon as we get home.
No, I want one of those.
Hello, this is Larissa of Goblins of Discord. If you want free Enneagram wallpapers for your phone, you can sign up below and get them. And you can also get a 20% discount off my typing services, of which I have 3 offers. And you can find out more about that on xrayvisionbabe.com. My website, I basically created this whole website and then the platform I had like deleted it all. So it's been great. Been rebuilding that. It's a little bit chaotic, but you can find everything on xrayvisionbabe.com. I'll link it below. You can also find all the links on the Instagram link tree. I do live typing calls and I do introvert typings, which is just video submissions. And I have lovely PDFs that accompany them now with your little goblins. For your tri-type, your shadow type, your alter ego type. And I'm doing coaching now, so for a limited time it's at like an early bird price and it'll be going up. And I specifically am like really like, I think I'm the best at working with people with like 4, 6, 7, 9 in their type. So if you have like any of those things in your type, yeah, 4, 6, 7, and 9. That's because I'm a 7, like 6, 4, 9. So I get your struggles, and I don't do like the buttoned up professional, like we'll set a goal, your Enneagram goal. Here's the path to growth for this week. You're gonna examine. Here's the journal prompt. That ain't what I do. I utilize somatic magic, and I move you out of the tar pit of your ego. We make love to the tar monster, okay? Which may or may not be for everybody. Definitely won't be for everybody. And integrate that. I love doing this shit, so especially for people that are like open to it. Not everybody, I don't work well with everybody, I'll be totally honest with you. People with a lot of super ego or a lot of rejection, I don't really work that well with. So but like I said, I can work well with people with like 4, 6, 7, 9 in your type. Don't have to have all of it in your type because I get you better than I get the other types on a soul level. And yeah, I'm happy to help you. We can just work for one session. You can just see, you can just try it out. I mean, you might not even want coaching. You might just do it for lulz. And or you can work with me longer term. And that's when we can have like some real profound shifts, removing just like really like basically like my sort of, I'm calling it type maxing, but it's also like really like allowing yourself to stop giving a fuck what other people think about you so that you can, and what you think about you on some level, so that you can just start living more in alignment with who you are without like all of the conditioning and the ego traps. And it's hard. It takes a long time to get, you can get rid of conditioning. You can get rid of like a low T trauma in one call. It can be just gone, eradicated entirely. But your personality type stuff, that is something you have to learn to work with. So I employ all kinds of things to help you with this, and I find it thrilling and I love doing it. So if that resonates with you, then you can check it out on my website, or you can just like hit me up in the DMs and ask me more about it. So yeah, this is the entitlement of the types. So, you know, if you're already triggered and like, that's negative or something, don't watch it. You don't have to watch it. This was kind of just, this isn't really like beginner friendly. You can also just read it on Substack if you want to, if you don't like watching the videos or listening to me. And this is reductive, of course, because I'm reducing the types to like one specific pattern. A few years ago, I started writing this essay on why I thought attachment types were entitled. And I never ended up posting it because I always get so much shit for being biased against the types, even though like most of my close friends are like attachment types. Like, I really feel like people take it very personally whenever I say anything. So I never ended up posting it. And then when I first posted this on Instagram was actually because somebody DM'd me. I asked people send me questions, which I actually have to get around to finish answering the other ones. This is the one that took hold, where it was like about fuck, I don't even remember what it was about, but it was about something like how attachment types outsource. And then my wheels started turning, and I was like, no, they don't outsource. They're entitled. They're entitled to support. So it became this, and then I ended up writing it about all of the types so that I would be unbiased and it would be fair. And hopefully I've roasted my own type as well, my combination of elements adequately. I'll start with the attachment triad, which is technically what inspired this. So that is Enneagram 3, 6, and 9. And so, in my opinion, anyways, there's this entitlement to your support, to others' support, regardless of whether they're social dom or social ass. So, attachment types crowdsource internal values, metrics, beliefs, needs, support, and outcomes. Or, another way to put it, is a sense of entitlement to getting their needs met via others because they're following established norms, wins, and living up to specific requirements. If I do X, then I'm entitled to Y. So this is like unconscious largely when people are doing this. Like all these patterns are, for the most part, most people are not going to be like, I am entitled to this because of this. It's going to be more happening in the background. Like there's going to be this like simmering resentment or just like it's unconsciously driving their behaviors. So elaborate further. Threes are image types, they're heart types. So it's like you reflecting me, and heart is kind of self-significance in many ways. It's like even twos, even though they're other oriented, it's about their role. It's very much an identity triad, the 2, 3, and 4. So they are, but threes are under feeling types. So they're the heart triad, they're emotional types, but they are the under feeling types because they're outsourcing the heart to the collective. And sixes are fear, so us versus them. They're the thinking triad. They are overthinking, they're overly paranoid, prepared, have to like worry about things, I have anxiety. And nines are autonomy, instinct in the gut center. They are we in the gut center, merging, we are one, collective unconscious, vibes. Together, we do these things together. I have to because like I don't want to be abandoned. And they are underdoing in the gut center. So they are sort of self-erasing on some level because of the merging, because of the passenger princess aspect that they have, that sort of passenger quality. If you're new to the Enneagram, I think that like my breakdown of the movie Get Out actually like kind of gets really into the passenger thing that nines can do. Anyways. And I did one on threes actually for Nightcrawler. I have not done one for sixes, although I have a list. So if you want more videos breaking down films, just let me know. I find them really tricky because they get so flagged on YouTube that it just ends up making me not want to be bothered. Okay, so entitlement shows up through outsourcing, as in this is a team effort, even if they're the one on top. So that's threes. Threes have to be on top. They always have to feel on top. And if they're not on top, they're on their way on top. Like if they're not above you, they're trying to get above you. They're seeing what you're doing so they can climb above you. So it's a team effort in the sense that they're getting the team to help them build themselves at the top, position themselves at the top. So attachment types, though, generally are entitled to the rewards of following steps that are alleged to promise such rewards. So, example, if I get a degree at this university, and I do this unpaid internship, therefore I will be guaranteed a job. If I become the ideal, if I'm like, you know, looks max, all the chicks will want to like ride my D. If I get, if I get the wife, I get the house, I get the da da da, finally, then I'll feel like I belong. If I'm loyal, if I show up for my friends and they'll never leave me, like, I don't know, it shows up in all these different ways, but it's like this sort of social contract, even if, again, they're not social types, where they're sort of like, there's this implication of a social contract. So threes outsource self-worth, feeling, and value, how valuable they feel, via gaze, which is like the audience, it's the clients, it's the group, it's um, all the chicks that want them, all the guys that want them, it's the job title, the position, through their achievements, through their metrics, through their, again, like this kind of like measurable value where it's like, I did this, did it, and now I'm entitled to the car, I'm entitled to the women, I'm entitled to the whatever. I mean, I'm being reductive, like I already said at the jump, so don't get offended. I'm going to do this to all the types. Sixes outsource thinking. Sixes hate to be told that they outsource thinking. A lot of sixes, not all, but the ones who are more self-aware are just like, yeah, I outsource thinking. Less so if they have 8 or 1 in their type, but so they outsource their thinking, fear, and security via authority or being against authority, tribe. So with the tribe or against the tribe where they're like an outsider in another tribe, but it's like a smaller tribe against the larger tribe, or it's like the downtrodden tribe against the like the oppressive tribe. Like it's very like that kind of like police officer, um, police officer versus criminal sort of dynamic, or like the good student versus the bad student, or you know what I mean? Like there's this sort of good, bad, power, like authority figure, uh, oppressed, oppressor, kind of thing that goes on with sixes. And that can show up socially too. That can show up in romantic relationships depending on their dominant instinct. And they outsource via consensus and collaboration. So there's this sort of implication of like, we're all on the same page, right? I can hear other people's views, but for my like crew, we're all on the same page, right? Like, you're not gonna betray me. You're not secretly like a racist. You're not secretly a homophobe. You're not gonna like throw me under the bus to like hump my chick, like this kind of thinking. Um, Nines outsource doing, autonomy, and specificity of self, uh, via hitching their wagon to someone else's ride or going along with the vibes. Kind of like, I feel like a lot of nines fall upwards sometimes where they're just sort of like going with the flow. So it's kind of like a great strategy in some ways, where you just kind of like, if I just like keep showing up for this job, like eventually I'll get promoted, I guess, and like, or if I hang out with like these interesting people, I'll be kind of like more interesting by osmosis, or um, it can be like nines are the most vibey type, so not that like there aren't like toxic or shitty nines out there, but they're the more likely to try to go with the flow and like kind of be part of the crew. And if they're like a loner nine because they have more hexad or they're social last or something like this, or they're just like misanthropic and disillusioned, um, then they can feel sort of um, listless because of the merging qualities. So they sort of like need, again, like even if they're social last, there's sort of like this need for others in order to exist. Or if they have to outsource, it might be like identity through music, through their favorite bands, through their favorite TV shows or films, or some like special interest that they have, and then that sort of is what creates their identity. So further, threes feel entitled to your positive gaze, recognition, and the rewards that comes with deadening their heart and transforming into the ideal. They sacrificed authenticity and vulnerability at the altar of value and success. So this is like a big one that I think like triggers a lot of threes, where they don't really necessarily want to own it. But like three is the vanity and deception type. So um, because they deceive to keep that self-worth going, where and like how they deceive can be like a spectrum, right? Like all types deceiving can just be like kind of white lies to make themselves look better, and maybe they're throwing somebody under the bus, or maybe they're saying massaging the truth a little bit to make themselves look more impressive, especially in whatever their dominant instinct is, to being like downright like diabolical and smear campaigns and like rivalrous. So how they kind of see it is like you will pay homage, you will bow to their superiority. They might not like say that out loud, but that's what they're thinking, and give them what they desire. Peasant, especially if they're a three-wing four. Three-wing twos are a little bit more people-y, but they are still competitive. Like threes are very competitive. And if you refuse, you'll come to regret it. So yeah, threes can vary in how they show up with this depending on like their tri-type, their instinct, their wing. If a three is like buttering you up, watch your back. That's all I have to say. If you are messing with a three and they are like your new best friend, watch your back. Okay, just watch your back. I speak from experience. Look, all types have their flaws. Watch your back. And if you're like, I have a friend, I'm friends with a three and they're always nice to me, you might be the grenade friend. I'm just saying, you might be the grenade. You might be the friend or the partner, whoever, who makes them look good because you look bad. Like, I'm just saying. They don't see you as a threat, honey. I'm just saying it. Or they find you useful. So sixes feel entitled to your loyalty, dependability, security, certainty, and whatever expertise you have. You must deliver for the team, for the crabs in the bucket. So what I mean is like when I say like they feel entitled to your like expertise, your knowledge, your certainty, is like sixes can feel like they have the right to just they can apologize, but then they'll just keep asking you question after question after question. And they can become like almost like mental vampires on some level where it's like you've got the goods. You've got the goods and I want the goods, the mental goods, the certainty, the knowledge, the the access to the thing that will make them feel safe. So depending on their instinctual type. So then they might feel like I'm loyal to you, I got your back, so you have to kind of give me these things, or like, and it can show up even like where you don't even know that they're doing that, right? Like that they are like your ride or die, and so they can feel very resentful if you're not reciprocating in a way that feels meaningful to them. And on the crabs in the bucket topic, which is, you may have heard that term before, like crabs in the bucket, tall poppy syndrome, where it's like we're all on the same level. It's very like communist kind of thinking. Not that sixes are all like communist, but it's very communistic sort of thinking. It's like we're all the same. We're all the same. I mean, I secretly think I'm like a little bit funnier or like more talented than somebody else, but like externally, it's like I'm a good person. We're all the same. I'm maybe a little bit more special, but like we're really all the same. And so the crabs in the bucket thing is like can be like when sixes can see somebody rising out of the bucket, they can get really triggered or threatened, where it's like, "Ugh, are they going to abandon me? Are they going to leave me? Are they going to betray me? Or am I not good enough now?" And they can get envious. Like I've talked about this in my horror of the heart types thing, probably. I definitely wrote about it before, where I actually see attachment types that get way more envious than like fours do in the classical sense. And I see it with sixes where they can get kind of like they kind of sometimes will want to cut you down to size if they think that you're like getting too big for your britches because it makes them feel unsafe. So it's like, well, if you feel overly confident, then like you're gonna leave me, and like also like you shouldn't feel that way about yourself because I'm not allowed to feel that way about myself. I'm not allowed to be like that. So I have to cut you down to size a little bit too. But at the same token, they can also be a really good team player and support your rise. So this is like the dichotomy. I think sixes are one of the real dichotomous types, paradoxical types, is like they have all these, it shows up in like either end. I don't know if like I even really like the term counterphobia for six. I just think that they can flip-flop depending on the situation. I think like counterphobic sixes is more just like six eights and six fours maybe, where they're like more identified with being like an outsider and like people are against me and this kind of thing. So, um, but yeah, so but they do have the team building thing of like, I'll support you, but then there's this implicit contract of then you'll have to support me. So if I help you with your rise to the top, you're gonna take me too, right? You're gonna take me too, right? And if they fall, you must catch them. They sacrificed self-trust and selfishness at the altar of security and loyalty. So what they're sort of like demanding without demanding it is you'll make me feel safe and supported, or I'll call you out as the bad or incorrect person, belief, side, or rival. And I do see this happen. I see this more with like sixes with like four or eight in their type, but it can be very like they can get really ramped up on like this is a bad person. We have to stay away from this person. This is the bad way of doing things, or like I'm not like this type of person. We can't do things like that. Like, so that can get like really ratcheted up depending on their tri type. It's not as bad with like six nines, 6 9 3s, or 6 9 2s. Um, mm. But yeah, what sixes kind of do are like projecting. So it's like as soon as you kind of move out of that role of like supporter, loyal, kind of in that dynamic of like we're in a team, we're in consensus, then you can suddenly become like this bad uh person to them very quickly where they can get really black and white about it. Again, this is just like a facet of the Enneagram that I'm speaking of. This is not like the overriding one personality trait that each type has. This is just a pattern that I've observed around like entitlement because I I really didn't understand these patterns until a few years ago, and then I couldn't stop seeing them and zeroing in on. Nines feel entitled to your preferences, life force engine, the map that you're following, and the specific fantasy they believe that you offer once they've decided this is the vibe for them. And this won't be like explicit. They won't be telling you this explicitly. This will just be happening in a withdrawn, kind of fantastical way. Maybe not even consciously. Um, but it's sort of like once they like have sort of like attached to your ride, like as the passenger, then it's sort of like they're sort of like hoping you'll psychically intuit their needs. Um, they sacrificed boundaries, their needs, and preferences at the altar of calm, vibes, harmony, and being your favorite passenger. So your life support system, so in their mind, but again, this is not like conscious per se. It's sort of something like your life support system must also keep me alive, psychically intuit my needs, and be smooth and frictionless, or else. Rare. Have to make a cat joke. Because it's a 9. um, but yeah, so like nines can sort of, it's like a passive entitlement where it can grow to be more aggressive if they're like a nine wing eight with like 7 or something like that in their type. But nine wing eights, for example, have like more of this sort of like assertive territoriality to their type where they can feel more like, well, this is this thing that I've kind of staked my claim in, so it's mine, and like I'm sort of entitled to like be a part of this thing now. Whereas like nine wing ones are less like that. Nine wing ones are more conscientious and sort of like driven to be a good person, and they might be more stricken by guilt or sort of keeping the peace more than nine wing eights are. So it kind of shows up a little bit differently. It's a sort of like upwardly mobile passivity that they embody that kind of makes them entitled, where they're not going to necessarily vocalize it or throw a tantrum, although they might get like they might erupt, but then you'll be like, why are they actually upset? Why are they actually being rude? Why are they being passive aggressive? Why are they keep sighing and like ghosting and canceling? But they're not usually, often they won't tell you. It'll be something else that you've done that or they'll try to like, especially 9-wing 8s, can sort of try to like get under your skin a little bit until you cause a fight, and then they can be like, oh, this is the problem. So I have a lot of 9s in my life. If you're a 9, you know what you're doing. You know what I'm talking about. You know that you do this. So, yeah, it's an entitlement thing. But again, all the types are entitled, and I'm going to keep going. And now we'll talk about the frustration triad, of which I have 2. So I have 9 in my type, so I'm guilty of some of that. And the frustration triad is 1, 4, and 7, and they have an entitlement to the ideal. And this is more in alignment with what I think, like for 4 and 7, what people classically think is kind of an entitlement. So frustration type entitlement manifests as the core belief that they deserve to experience their ideal reality and they refuse to settle for less. They indirectly or directly create situations in which they get what they want by refusing to settle, compromise, or keep quiet about their dissatisfaction. And so if you have like, somebody could literally be a triple frustration type, the same way they can be a triple attachment type, and then you're going to have a very like pissy, frustrated, annoyed, particular, persnickety person. So the more frustration you have in your type, the more you're going to be like this. Um, and if the outer world doesn't bend to their will, they disavow it, judge it, discard it for something or someone more ideal. And again, this is where I think more classic entitlement comes in, because you can really see it, especially with like 4, for example, where it's like, I don't do that, thank you. And I mean, this backfires, obviously. I'm double frustration, so it backfires. I call this like the frustration triad, like the Goldilocks triad, because it's like nothing's ever quite right, and then when you get the thing that's right, somehow it blows up. And then because you're like, as a frustration type, you are literally wired to never be happy. You are wired to always find something wrong with it. You are wired to always be like greener pastures oriented. So 1s are less obvious with this, in the sense that it doesn't manifest as like this sort of like, I deserve what I want. It comes across as more like self-righteous and like holy, and it's for everybody and it's the right thing to do. So it kind of shows up in different ways, but it's the same mechanism essentially. So 4s are image, me, myself, and my muse. They're heart types, which is self-significance. They're dramatized feeling types. So where 3 is sort of under feeling, where they can go into like competency, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna like wall out feelings, unless they hit like an absolute rock bottom, or like they have like their wound, their self-worth wound, like really activated. 3s are also like big fake criers. Just so it's on record, they're big fake criers. So sometimes they'll throw a tantrum, but it's to manipulate you. It's not like genuine. But 4s are like overly dramatic feeling types. So it's more like they chip a nail and it's like, oh my God, like these nail people, they just want to take me down because they are jealous of me, and like yeah, and it can be anything can be melodramatic, where it's like the end of the world, but that's like sort of where they get juiced. So, and the 7s are fear types, but they're like the opposite of fear, because they're like moving away from fear, they're escaping fear. So they're I am a mouth and I must scream head types. La 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 la, like don't stop talking types usually, or they just have a lot to say. They're very opinionated. Can be like like they're positive types, so it's usually like fun or chaotic or funny, off the cuff, sort of like absurd often. But yeah, they're kind of like skippity thinking types. It's like all over the place, scattered, trending. 1s are autonomy instinct types as gut types. It's the holy I am God. They won't say that I am God, but that's like how they kind of feel inside. And they're like they're doing types, but they're perfectly doing types. Only they know how to do it right. Nobody else does it right but the one. But if you meet their standards, they'll be very grateful to you. Uh, so the entitlement is equal to like feeling like for especially for this triad, uh, I feel like frustration overlaps with feeling like you deserve something. So where attachment types also feel entitled, it's like I showed up and so I get something back. Whereas frustration types just feel entitled. They just deserve it for existing. Um, and I see this because they're more like lofty, more individualistic. Again, even ones who are like kind of operating from this uh, sort of like it's for the higher good, but it's not. It's coming from this like individualistic. Here's the way I believe that reality should operate way of thinking. So fours deserve their ideal via self-appointed exceptionalism, separation, and refusal to compromise their self, their vision, or their fantasy. So regardless of whether they've like earned it, to use a six frame, or the outer world reflects it to them in any meaningful way, where it's like you are exceptional, you are you deserve this. It doesn't matter because fours are just wired to feel that way. So it's like and like this can back them into corners. That's probably why even though four is like a very creative type, that like a lot of them don't end up becoming famous because they're like just constantly backing themselves into corners by refusing to compromise, be a team player. They blow up shit, they start fights with people, they cause drama. I know that there's like different uh streams of thought about what four is doing. This is mine. I think like fours are melodramatic. They're image types. They're over feeling types. Therefore, they are drama. I'm not talking like a drama student, like a fucking theater kid. I mean, like they're literally bringing the drama to the moment, and they feel like they are deserving of their fantasy, and they don't care if you don't agree with them, and they will try to cultivate that. Even if their life is very small, they will try to cultivate this fantasy for themselves until they just walk into the lake or whatever if they don't get their fantasy. But they also like feed off not getting what they want. So again, with the frustration piece for all of them, it's like they feed off not having the ideal. It's the searching for the ideal that creates the like kind of ego trap for them. So even if they have the ideal, it won't be the ideal. Oh, it's a disappointment. Sevens deserve their ideal via disregarding others, and limitations generally, like lock-picking access in their quest for the juiciest options and the grandest experiences. Rules don't apply to sevens. So, because it's like, why would it, right? Like, this is a game, and I don't see why I have to operate within it. So again, there's like this exceptionalism, idealism that happens with sevens as well. Where they are fearful of limitations, but it's their orientation towards that fear, where they're kind of like orientated to constantly creating escape hatches moment to moment. So it's like you kind of can't lock a seven into anything because they'll find a slippery, they'll find a loophole, they'll find a way into the back door, because it's just they're imaginative types, just generally because of the way that they think, because they're possibility orientated. Not to say that other types can't be imaginative, but they are possibility orientated, which means that they are constantly autopilot generating different ideas. And so but that fucks them over too, because they're constantly fixated on the juicy thing, the next juicy thing. If this teat becomes like stale and dusty, it doesn't matter because they've already lined up a juicy teat over there, and that they're just going to leave that. Oh, we can make this dusty teat work. The seven's not going to be bothered with that. The seven's going to be like, you know what? I love that for you, but not for me. I found a reservoir of milk over here. Bye. Okay. Have a good day. So again, this is where kind of classic entitlement manifests. Ones deserve their ideal via inflicting rules standards, perfectionism, holy standards, perfectionism, quality, ethics, integrity onto others. They impose it on their environment. So, like, especially if they have self-pres, it'll be like in their home, it'll be on their family, their loved ones, their coworkers, wherever they work. Just others, it's like they're imposing their metric for like how you should behave in society. Uh, you're Because they're sort of like orientated towards finding perfection and this like ultimate way of being and existing in the world, which can get confused a lot with six stuff with this because they're both super ego types as well and like another set of triads. But ones is kind of more this lofty. It's not like this consensus orientated thing where it's like we're all on the same page. We can all benefit from this. It's like the ones just know. No, no, no. This is how things should be. And you didn't do that? They might get like drill sergeanty with you or like they're more like disciplinarian orientated or like kind of telling you what to do and listing out like sort of things that you need to do to improve or they'll just do it themselves too and then give you like a sort of disappointed look or whatever, but they're still like inflicting a sense of entitlement onto you because it's like if you're going to be around me, I'm going to impose my standards onto you. And if you aren't living up to those standards, you're going to feel my like ire on some level. You're going to feel my judgment. So this is kind of how all three types operate is like they're creating their own little world around themselves. And if like, and so are rejection types actually, in a different way, but it's sort of like if you're not like willing to sort of concede to that, then you're not likely to get compromise on their end. So it ends up being like that attachment types have to sort of compromise on some level, um, often against their will. And then that's when resentment can build up. It's more like nines and some sixes that do this, but it's mostly nines. Anyways, this is why I like to make videos because then I can like riff a little bit on topics that I just kind of wrote a little paragraph about, but this is probably also not ideal for some people. But anyways, there's a Substack article that you can read. Link below. Okay. Further, fours feel entitled to be treated as if they're the most precious, unique, and special little monster to ever walk the earth. They sacrificed belonging, fitting in, which is like really code word for mediocrity. Truth. It's the truth. If you are a four fixed, you think you're a four and you don't think, and you're not like openly like, yeah, like other people are sort of just like, they're mediocre. And it's not about being special and the like, we're all special, everybody's special. And like, I'm special too. It's not like that. It's like the special fucking exception. I'm not like you and I will never be like you and I don't operate on your rules and like I will impose my rules, my sort of like rules for reality, which are centered all around me by not bending to you at all. So, or if they do bend, then it causes this big chaotic catastrophe. It's a big drama. Again, I feel like I always have to like kind of elaborate more on four just because so many sixes and nines mistype as fours, and so I just try to create more like clarity, but I don't know that it always translates. Anyways, they feel entitled to, oh, sorry. They sacrificed feeling understood, liked, or happy at the altar of being significant, original, and meaningful. So a lot of types, like sixes and nines again, that like often relate to four descriptions where like I feel misunderstood. It's like fours want to be misunderstood because if you understand them, then they're worthless. So nines and sixes often like they feel misunderstood, especially if they have four in their type, but it's like they don't, but they kind of like want you to understand them or try to understand them, but fours don't, because it's like if you understand the four, and you're not like some special person that they've honed in on. And this is like a conditional, constantly changing metric where it could be like, oh, you got me, but then later I decide that you're disgusting and like you don't get me. So it's not the same for fours. Like fours get off on not being understood. And I'm not talking about like nine vague maxing where they could like, especially 953s can get really like slippery and vague with how they express themselves. And it's not that. It's it's very emotionally charged and dramatic and like creating this sort of story about themselves that like I'm just too deep and like people can't understand me. So they will not be treated like a lowly little plebeian piglet, or you will feel the sting of a white gloved slap to your face. Forming three is more like white glove slap, especially if they have like 1 or 7 fix. There can be like an extra sting to that, like, how dare you? But if they're forming five, then it's more gonna be like a strange, stanky glove. It's gonna be like covered in grime a little bit, and mm, they might even like slap your face and then lick the finger after. So sevens feel entitled to live deliciously and deliriously. They sacrificed calm, consistency, stability, and the rewards of commitment and discipline at the altar of novelty, fun, innovation, and zero responsibilities, burdens, or boredoms. They either get what they want or what they want wasn't so juicy after all. So again, it's like kind of like they can discard stuff. It's like, oh, oh, all you're offering is a dusty teat? No thanks. Sorry. Bye. Um, but what they're giving up, and so yeah, again, like seven is a type that I think sometimes a lot of nines think they're sevens. But it's like sevens aren't as concerned with like calm or consistency or stability or like kind of like the rewards that come with like building relationships and creating like a network or like these kind of connections. Like, not to say that sevens don't have like long-term friends and relationships that matter to them, but it's just like not as high of a priority as it is to nines. Like, sevens will choose chaos mode, sevens will choose the fun thing. They'll blow off people to go chase the more exciting thing, whereas nines can blow off people because they just like didn't really want to go and then felt like, but I don't want to deal with it. I want to have to tell them. And if you have 7 and 9 in your type, you're probably doing a little bit of both. Yeah, and so sevens won't waste any time moving on to the grand next adventure or scheme because yawn. Why would they? It's like diminishing returns. Um, as frustration types, they can get fixated in a frustration cycle, but it usually is centered around escaping or like possibilities or hope, where it's like this next thing, and then I do this, and this is going to solve all the problems, and then it doesn't, and then they find the next thing. So it's like constantly like sort of forward momentum that ends up keeping them actually like almost like it's almost like so much it's almost like a boomerang effect where it's like they just are hurtling so fast forward that they end up actually coming all the way back around because they like just weren't even paying attention to the path that they were on, and then they start from zero again, and it's like, oh, now I'm back to where I started. So that's how sevens can really fuck themselves over with their entitlement, basically. Their entitlement to fun, their entitlement to adventure and possibilities and hope and not being trapped in consistency and the mundane and like, obligations. Tedium. Fours and sevens hate tedium. I mean, most people hate tedium, but like they really, really hate tedium to the point where they'll blow up their lives. So ones feel entitled to orderly, polite perfection that abides by their standards and regulations. They sacrificed satiating base impulses and the joys of being a messy bitch at the altar of integrity, perfection, and pretending to be God. And 9-wing ones can have this God complex too, I've noticed, but and threes do too. But with one, it's like it's very much like this is what's right. This is how we behave. And there's like this kind of suppressed rage. It's not like 9 suppressed rage where it kind of like bubbles up as resentment, where it's kind of being sit on for a while. It's like ones are like kind of containing the rage where it's like, so you'll live up to these standards or feel the holy fire of criticism, penetrative frown line frequency ray guns, and ruler slaps, spankings if you're nasty, or maybe if they're like a sexual one and they've just made it their kink. Bad boy, bad girl. So yeah, again, their entitlement is showing up with like the way the world should exist. It's kind of like a very should, I think, oriented type. Like not like I should do this. It's more like you should be like this. I should be like this because this is what's perfect. This is how we're supposed to be. This is the right thing to do. And they're like evil ones. They're low-key evil ones. And like actually I keep meaning to do a video for like 2 years now on an evil one, but I haven't done it yet, obviously. Um, but they're driven by, they don't think they're evil. They think that they're doing the right thing, and this is what the world needs. I'm going to put it into order. It is the correct thing. People can't think for themselves. I'm going to take over, and I'm going to do it for them because I'm the daddy. I'm the mummy. Well, two's more the mummy, but as women can be ones, obviously, but it's like, I'm the daddy. So, anyways, ones are like good and godly, but they're also like harsh, critical, very whiplashy types. Okay. And now for the last one, the rejection triad, which is 2, 5, and 8. And this is entitlement to submission. This is how I see it, anyway. So rejection type entitlement manifests as conditional access in which specific requirements must be met in order to fully engage, in order for them to fully engage with you. This is done to avoid feeling vulnerable on their end. Not that they would consciously tell you that or maybe like even necessarily be aware of it, but enslaves others in a subservient or dependent role to the 2, 5, or 8. So they control the connection to maintain power, dominion, and being impossible to reject. So the other person submits because they can't fucking escape from the dynamic if they want to be in the dynamic, or if they're like literally in a situation where, like an abusive situation where they're like dependent on the person, which could very well happen with a low health rejection type, um, then they can't get away. So this is like very specific types will get entangled in these kind of like domination, submission, um, relationships or dynamics with these types. Um, which, you know, some of them will get off on it and like it, and other ones won't, but it will be like feeding two ends of the same polarity, sort of. Um, so yeah, so basically they make themselves impossible to reject because they are like necessary to the other person's survival on some level. The other person submits if they are to meet the 2, 5, or 8, giving up an element of their autonomy or accepting a dependent or subordinate role in that dynamic. So it's like kind of like how 3 has to be on top. There's sort of a thing with that with 2, 5, and 8 where they have to be in control on some level in order for them to be. With 8 is like an assertive type, it's way more active because they're like trying to control everything, and they won't. The thing is, these types don't like see themselves this way. So they're not like, I have to control this person. They think what they're doing is like how they have to do things. This is just who they are. This is how things operate. And this is how the world works. And this is how they survive. So it's not like they're necessarily consciously inflicting this again, like all of the types. Um, which is also what makes this so interesting and why it makes it so interesting when you do accurately figure out what your type is, because then you start to see the stuff and it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then you can love yourself anyways, because these are the 9 types that we got for this matrix game, and you're doing the best that you can. Okay. Anyways, so 2s are image shame types. So that's me through you. They are heart types. They're the power bottom heart type. So they're like servicing you, but it's to give themselves power. So it's like, you need me. And then when I need something, you have to give it to me. They are, I consider 2s an invasive species feeling type. So how 4s are like particularly like independent and like, get away from me. And 3s are like kind of like underdoing the feeling center. 2s are like overdoing it in the same way 4s are, but in a way that it's moving towards other people. So where 4s are like, ah, ah, 2s are like, ah, ah. I'm so sorry. But yeah, they're like the tentacle type. It's like I'm gonna put my hooks in you, I got the cookies. You want some more cookie? You getting fat? You getting too fat to leave? Are you gonna be here for forever? And then when they have you, that's when they pull away the cookies. And fives are fear types. They're head types, they're thinking types. They're the Hellraiser cube type. They are sphincter to colon thinking types. Wow, I just realized how on the nose that was in a prophetic way. Okay, and eights are autonomy and instinct. I'm the I'm the captain now. Uh, gut types. They're the demolition doing types, so they're overdoing. So ones are overdoing too, but they're overdoing in a tight, constricted way, and eights are overdoing in like an expansive, like more, like I mean, I'm being melodramatic a little bit for this, but and it depends on what else is in their type because like eights can also be like very mama bearish and caring, but they're also like kind of they it's like they have this like confidence, then they take up space and it's like I'm the leader here, this is my domain, whatever that domain happens to be, it's theirs. They don't really be in areas they're not in their domain, or they're like going to become the domain keeper, much like threes kind of like trying to become the best at something. Eights are becoming the sort of like I don't want to say dictator necessarily, but it can be a dictator thing. And they don't see themselves that way because eights also like I think I could be wrong on this, but this is what I've observed is that a lot of eights kind of think they're benevolent beings, like where they're like they're doing it for others, but it's like not, obviously, because they're afraid of being vulnerable. So they have to control things in order to not be fucked over. So twos are entitled to submission via relentless maternal meddling and tentacles that flatter, pet, gift, and help until you're swaddled helplessly, reflecting their care back to them with your grateful, suckling baby face. They low-key want you to be a baby, I think. Forever, a forever baby. I have a two for a mom, so I am like up close and personal with this pattern, and I'm double withdrawn, so I'm like a perfect victim in that way. Um, they can they want you to be dependent on them, but then they're gonna use it as like a point of grievance as well. It's like I do so much for them. If it weren't for me, they'd be out on the street. It's kind of how they like create their identity. So again, like they're not doing this malevolently, they're just doing their type. Fives are entitled to submission via limited ports of connection. You are reduced to your useful function or like the category that they've decided you belong in, how optimally you slot into the spreadsheet. So no entry shall be granted that the five doesn't control. And the only time I think that fives will sort of like cede any ground, and it will be begrudgingly, and it will be like an inch. It'll be like just a little inch, just a little inch, that they can sort of like suffer through is because you have something that they want. There's something valuable that you offer, probably likely around like something that the five finds interesting. It's like esoteric knowledge, about specific knowledge. You're an interesting specimen or something like this to them, where they're like sort of like putting you in an anomalous category where it's like, okay, I'm going to try to control the situation, and if they can't control the situation, but there's still something that they want from you, then it's going to be like a very begrudging, like rusty wheel, like turning, and like they're not really going to be budging, but it's going to be like, and then they're going to have to probably withdraw, or they're going to have to create all these boundaries around this new thing that they've allowed so that it doesn't like infect the rest of the kingdom. So it's like your little dog pen over here, your special little pen that you can't come into the larger pen. I don't know if this makes sense. This is just how I'm visualizing it right now as I'm talking about it. Eights are entitled to submission via inflicting an energetic demolition crew wherein they're always on top. Again, like assertive type thing. Like sevens are less orientated towards this. So assertive types being 3, 7, and 8. So this is a different triad. I'll break those down in videos too. But there's kind of an on top thing. So for sevens, for threes, it's more like on top and image, kind of success value, this kind of thing, whatever their ego is invested in, like in their instincts. Um, and eights, it's like on top in terms of like they're the one in dominating things. They're the one in control. They run the show. And for sevens, it's more like assertive in terms of like just I'm on top because I'm floating away from you, losers. It's more just like on top because they're scurrying up the mountain to find the next shiny object. It's not like they want to be on top of anybody. Um, yeah. And so this then the other person in this dynamic or other people in this dynamic are become a minion, basically. Although a lot of eights wouldn't admit that. But you become a minion, devotee, a disciple, kissing the ring with reverence on your lips and fear in your poor heart. Um, because you're now their property, you're their little minion, and they might be doing it to protect you because they like you and they care about you, but really they're like controlling you. So they're entitled to your submission. Again, this is like all entitled to your submission. Further, twos feel entitled to being the most appreciated, nurturing, necessary, honey-covered Mother Mary in your universe. They sacrificed their needs and nipples at the altar of you. They will not be denied credit for everything good in your life or unfettered access to you. They will not be denied access to you. Their juicy heart IV bag. Thinking of running? Say goodbye to your kneecaps. Want a nice wife away from mother? She'll peer at you through your window while you make love. Especially if she is like 8 in her type, 268. Haunt your dreams with guilt trips. Orchestrate the destruction of your marriage while feeding your buttery muffins. While feeding you buttery muffins. I haven't read this in a while, so anyways. Fives feel entitled to existing 100% on their terms, without your interference, grotesque blubbering hysterics, or having to participate in the pyramid scheme of humanity. They sacrificed nothing useful at the altar of optimization, dependence necrosis, and tin shed mold bites, hot wire head obsessive dweller maxing. They will not be forced to interact on your terms or entangled in your agendas and schemes, you wicked vile creatures forged of eldritch tapeworm placenta biofilm. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's like a stereotype of like fives moving into the forest, living in a tin shed and like hot wiring things and like just being like not spending any money, like being kind of like stingy and creating like this little universe where they have no dependence on anybody else. Like one of my five friends learned how to rewire all kinds of stuff to like get free electricity. Like he hasn't had a real job ever in his life. And he like just lived in all of these buildings illegally forever and was just like hot wiring and doing all this stuff. And so like I know that a lot of like nines and 6 wing fives often think that they're fives, or sevens think that they're fives, but it's like this is like a competency type too. It's a rejection competency type. So it's like I do not need you. I will not need you. So like they are going to be wired for like complete and total autonomy of like like just complete independence like at the extreme. So fives do not feel safe to like need other people, to rely on other people at all. And like a lot of other types can feel that way, but fives will actually construct their life around avoiding that. So it's like you're not like you're not going to be able to get one from the five. Like if you're like a person who's like I like they're not going to accept your gift. They're not going to accept your offer for the most part. And they don't want to get entangled in your office drama. They don't want to get entangled in your like go Google it, you know what I mean? So eights feel entitled to your unwavering fealty and compliance in their various schemes and acquisitions. They sacrifice their ooey gooey stompable center at the altar of a King Kong glow up and becoming protector and ruler over whatever constitutes their kingdom. So again, like it's going to be a little bit different depending on the instincts, but they're still going to have this like territorial, like active territorial thing going on. And 9 wing eights, I see this in 9 wing eights sometimes, but with eights, it's more, it's way more like you see it in their behavior. Nine-wing eights, I think, often feel like they're doing this, but they're not actually, like, it's not actually translating to their like everyday 24/7 like operational field. Eights won't be challenged, outmaneuvered, disrespected, or overthrown. I mean, I know that like eights with like 862 again can sort of have like a little bit of like I was hurt, like I was a victim on some level. Like eights with two can have that. But their actual presence and energy is kind of the opposite of that, where you're like kind of find it hard to believe that like you're the victim. Because you're like a boss bitch, or like you're like very dominating. So, but again, like we don't see ourselves how we actually are. So in the eight's mind, it's like now get back. So in the eight's mind, they might it might be framed differently, but it's kind of like now get back on your leash, dog, or you're getting thrown out of a moving cart and you're gonna have to fend for yourself. Like, and eights are like all rejection types can like wall out that which they do not want to experience or interact with. So two, five, and eight can all be like this. And if you have like a wing two, five, or eight, you can also be like this to a lesser degree. You'll still be doing it a little bit, but it won't be as like much as like a core rejection type. So this is also how again like their entitlement shows up, because it's like they're controlling reality, they're controlling your experience on some level by setting the terms. It's like this is my role, and like you won't have any control in this situation. I will. So anyways, that's all I wrote. If you want to just look at the less fleshed out version, you can check it out on Substack at goblinsofdiscord.com. Yeah, and if you like this kind of stuff, let me know. I got really like waylaid recently, so I was planning to make a bunch of videos and then I didn't, which I won't go into, but I'm hoping to get back on track and like start making more videos. I miss doing it. This felt energizing, so I hope you enjoyed it. And have an amazing day.